fair to put this loss on Herbert?
Yeah. It's 10 straight quarters of F- quarterback play in the playoffs by Justin Herbert. Right. This is what it is. I mean, the first good news, well, I guess second good news after Harbaugh getting fired for Lamar in the last couple months. He's no longer the face of shaky playoff quarterbacking from a quarterback that in Lamar's case we know is great.
It's far better
It's
than Herbert.
Exactly right. But like if people talk about like playoff shrink, alleged superstar quarterback Lamar, it's not alleged. If Lamar had been the face of it for a lot of people, he's not. And again, this can change, but the fact that it can change in the future doesn't mean it's not a reality right now. Right now, here's where Justin Herbert is in NFL history amongst quarterbacks with at least 3 playoff starts in passer rating. Dalton's the worst, then Herbert, Brad Johnson, Carson Palmer, Rex Grossman. Palmer at least had one good run late in his career, which again is to say it can happen. Mm-hmm. And when I asked for this graphic, I didn't know Andy Dalton. It was going to be Dalton Herbert 1-2. But we have said for a long time, we're talking about Mahomes and Allen and Lamar, like who's Brady, who's Manning, who's Big Ben of this era. Somebody's also got to be Andy Dalton. And this might sound outrageous because Herbert's 6'6" and has a rocket arm. Here's Andy Dalton and Justin Herbert through 6 years. Now, Herbert's better, but he has a worse record. Same in the playoffs. Team points per game, same. Yards per game goes to Herbert. Yards per pass, Dalton. Again, Herbert is better. But the way it is discussed, he is not discussed like he is a rich man's Andy Dalton until the playoffs when he is just Andy Dalton. And I understand it is always someone else's fault. And the offensive line, particularly in the fourth quarter, was a train wreck. But the flip side to that is this. Literally, no quarterback in NFL history has had their defense force more takeaways in a 3-game playoff losing streak than Justin Herbert has in his. In the last quarter century, no quarterback has lost 3 straight playoff games with their defense forcing 5 turnovers, other than Chad Pennington. Herbert's has forced 10. That's the most in the last.
Forced. Trevor gave him a lot.
Okay, well, whatever it is. I'm saying extra possessions, but still, extra possessions.
I'm joking.
And if we took it to the entirety of NFL history, Herbert's number 1 as well. Number 2, Brew, I didn't do it because I want to do it to your guy. Burt Jones with 9. That Burt Jones fella just showed up a lot of these Justin Herbert playoff.
I know
Burt
this,
Jones
but like you have to. You're at I think the 8-yard line when Drake gave you the ball.
Yeah,
like you have to score there.
And so I am again like Greg. I am not saying he is the biggest problem with the team, but he is the superstar who is the reason people believe in the team. Yeah. And for 3 straight playoff games, at least 2.5, straight, he has been totally unproductive. I don't know what else you can say about it.
This is just one of the worst takes I think I've ever heard, truly.
Not been the case in the postseason. Watching that game yesterday, it is very difficult for me to sit here and put it all on Justin Herbert. Knowing what I, as a receiver, and forget the offensive line. We know the offensive line. Mm-hmm. From a receiving standpoint, tell me a guy that was creating any form of separation yesterday.
I was shocked that we had
it. It was unreal. And you cannot do that to your quarterback. I'm not going to give anybody a pass, but Keenan Allen, a little longer in the tooth. Okay, that acceptable if you want to say that. Lad McConkey, no, exactly, the drops. Lad McConkey, no separation, it was poor. Quentin Johnson, where was he?
But here's can I just run that real quick? There was, and I should have him pull the tape. On one of the Herbert scrambles to the right, McConkey is open by a 20-yard radius around him, and at that point they are down 6-3. I understand it'd be one thing if this was a tie or a 3-point or a 6-point game for 2.5 hours before the offensive line totally broke down. You needed your superstar to make one play.
All right, I appreciate how he's essentially cutting off Greg Jennings while Greg is articulating a fundamental truth. No one was getting open. They couldn't establish a running game, and the offensive line surrendered 25 pressures. 25. On the vast majority of his dropbacks and passing attempts, Justin Herbert was under duress, with no viable receiving options and 0 support from the ground attack. I'm genuinely curious what miraculous feat people expect him to perform under those conditions. And then there's the attempt to reference a 3-and-out in the third quarter. He was not the primary issue in that game against the Jaguars. Let's just stop with that narrative. It's nonsense. Recall last season, he faced an elite defense behind another subpar offensive line and was thoroughly overwhelmed. This year, the identical problems persist. The expectation that Justin Herbert should single-handedly win a playoff game with a historically bad offensive line is utterly absurd. It's equally ridiculous to leverage selective statistics comparing him to Andy Dalton, pretending those numbers hold any meaningful weight. We could easily manipulate seasonal or career statistics to make numerous other quarterbacks appear superior. Are you serious? There have been seasons where Tua Tagovailoa posted better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. Baker Mayfield has had better statistical years. Would you ever employ a purely statistical argument to claim Tua is a better quarterback than Mahomes? Of course not. So, deploying a similar tactic here is fundamentally flawed. Perhaps Andy Dalton was actually a reasonably talented quarterback, but the Cincinnati Bengals organization was simply inadequate during his tenure. Have we considered that? Maybe it's a parallel to the constant criticism of Eli Manning. People often diminish his accomplishments. Well, he won 2 Super Bowls, but he wasn't that good. Perhaps he was actually a very capable quarterback whose supporting cast and organization were frequently inconsistent. He managed to elevate his game during critical playoff runs, which is commendable. Maybe he deserves more credit. As we develop a more nuanced understanding of coaching impact and roster construction, we must evolve beyond the simplistic worldview that places all responsibility on the quarterback. Victory is solely their triumph. Defeat is solely their failure. Perhaps it's time to recalibrate how we evaluate quarterback performance. I've already produced a video acknowledging that Justin Herbert needed to perform better in that specific game. It was far from his best outing. However, as Greg Jennings just highlighted, when receivers can't separate, the run game is non-existent, and protection collapses, what exactly is the quarterback supposed to do? What is the realistic expectation? He faced pressure on 25 dropbacks. Everyone vividly recalls the collective meltdown over Patrick Mahomes' performance in a prior Super Bowl where he was pressured. The stage, Super Bowl or otherwise, is irrelevant when analyzing a specific performance. We're examining a football game. In this context, we have a quarterback dealing with extreme pressure. How did he respond? Patrick Mahomes struggled significantly under less pressure than what Herbert endured in this game. That's an indisputable fact. We can examine numerous other quarterbacks who have faced intense pressure. Again, it's not as if receivers were running free. You can always isolate moments where a throw was missed. Absolutely. There were instances where Justin Herbert could have made a better decision or a more accurate pass. But here's a revelation. You can do that for Matthew Stafford. You can do that for Caleb Williams. You can do that for Jalen Hurts. You can do that for Josh Allen. You can do that for every quarterback in every game. This is a significant personal frustration, the tendency to hyper-focus on a single imperfect throw. Oh, Jalen Hurts' pass to Devonta Smith in the end zone was slightly high. Okay, but what about the other 20 throws that were perfectly placed? The expectation of flawless accuracy on every attempt is irrational. I witness Patrick Mahomes miss throws regularly. I see Matthew Stafford miss throws. I observe Josh Allen miss throws. They all do. The key is discerning when it's appropriate to critique a quarterback for an errant throw and when it is not. When a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, operating within Sean McVay's system, has receivers consistently wide open and still misses a few throws, that warrants criticism. Or if a quarterback is missing with high frequency throughout a game, that's a legitimate concern. However, occasional misses within an otherwise stellar performance are part of the game. Consider one of Josh Allen's most phenomenal performances. I believe it was last season against the Los Angeles Rams, where he accounted for 6 touchdowns. I remember thinking it was one of the most spectacular individual games I'd ever witnessed. It was historic. Yet, even in that masterpiece, he made one terrible throw. The commentator noted, he'd love to have that one back. It's fascinating. You can watch a quarterback author one of the greatest games in history and still identify a single poor decision. I immediately discussed this with a colleague, questioning how to reconcile a bad throw within a legendary performance. His response was perfect. What are you going to do? He did so much. You can't expect perfection. And he was right. You can isolate that one play and label it bad, but it doesn't define the performance. Therefore, it is entirely unfair to place this loss on Justin Herbert's shoulders. Evaluation must occur on a game-by-game basis. If Herbert were consistently supported by strong teams and still underperformed, that would indicate a problem. But that is not his reality. In such a case, historical context would be relevant. We observe Lamar Jackson commit unforced turnovers and make questionable decisions in multiple games. That's a valid point of analysis. We critique Dak Prescott for similar inconsistencies. That's logical. But Justin Herbert's situation is categorically different. It's almost amusing to hear Greg Jennings express this perspective because I previously stated that no unbiased analyst or former player who isn't merely chasing podcast clicks or viral moments would assign blame to Herbert. I doubt a knowledgeable figure like LaShawn McCoy is out there saying, he just has to find a way. I don't know his exact take, but individuals engaged in genuine, football-informed conversations, whether they played or coached, are not attributing this loss to Justin Herbert. No one in that Chargers locker room is asserting Justin Herbert isn't good enough. That's why we lost. Not a single person. But those are my reflections. I am genuinely eager to hear yours. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree or disagree. Let's engage in some discussions, have some spirited debates, but ultimately, let's enjoy the conversation. Please consider subscribing. We are building an incredible community here and would love for you to be part of it. I aim to create something we all feel connected to and excited about, and I believe we're making significant progress. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.